morning, and thank you, Kapila, for the introduction. I will not take much of your time. I think you are here not to listen to another lecture in the morning, but it's my duty to give a brief introduction to what I am doing in this course. So before that, can I know how many of you are finance managers here? How many of you are money managers? How many of you manage money? No one manages money? No? So no one gets a salary? No one earns anything? So don't you make decisions how to earn, what to earn, and where to put your money? Yeah? You buy an ice cream or watch a movie, put your money in a bank account. All these are financial decisions. So in that sense, we all are finance managers. If you haven't thought it that way, now you know. Right? Every one of us are finance managers in our own way. But the problem has been we have not been looking at it in that sense, and we sometimes fail to realize that whatever else that we manage in our lives, we knowingly or unknowingly manage these money matters in some form, and there is evidence to say that the life and your success stories are fundamentally dependent on how you manage your money. It's very simple as that. That's why sometimes you get certain people, you get people, maybe your colleagues, whoever, earn the same salary, have the same income, but have two different lifestyles, right? And some people don't have as much as you do, but they live a better life. And some people own palaces, but travel in a bus. And some people are on rent, but travel in Mercs, right? And all these are decisions that you have made in terms of money and wealth. So in very simple terms, the topic that I am covering are very much connected to this. The financial modeling has two domains in it. One is the financial part of it. We talk about technical financial management starting from the scratch. So the entry requirement to do this particular part is zero knowledge in accounting. If you have anything above zero, you are a genius in the class, right? But it doesn't mean that we are talking about infant stuff. Because we start with that and we then go to the basic accounting functions, terminology, and things that we require to do the rest of the subjects in this whole course. So this course has two elements, as I told you. One is the accounting bit, where we discuss from the beginning or from the history of accounting, how it has been evolved over the period and how we look at it today, and what are the basic accounting concepts that are required to do accounting function in an organization. And then we go to the extent of analyzing financial statement gradually. And the second bit of this part is modeling part, financial modeling. So we are looking at how to use technology to model financial concepts so that you don't have to repeat things and you can do better things and you can improve as your productivity. So the modeling tool we are using is Microsoft Excel. So we try to combine finance with this modeling tool Microsoft Excel and see how we can leverage the two to get better outcome. In the interest of time, let me give you a few examples in the past that I have experienced in this class. Having done this, I think I've been teaching for this more than a decade now, right? 11 or 12 years, yes. Just one few examples. There was one engineer in this class who has been managing multiple projects throughout the country. It's a fairly large engineering company. And this gentleman was talking to me about his routine task. He has to take about 6 days of his time simply to compile a consolidated report on all the projects that he has around the country, because he gets the information in Excel format from different projects throughout the country, and this guy has to sit and put everything into a one common sheet and prepare a master summary. And according to him, it took him 6 days. So after coming to this class, these are not rocket science, by the way. When he learned certain basic techniques in Microsoft Excel and modeling, now he has been able to reduce that entire workload to half a day. So he is now saving 5.5 days by learning a simple basic technique. I think that says the whole story what I'm talking about. There are many other I can give. The second point I want to highlight here is that I know that no one raised your hand when I asked how many of you are finance managers, because that's not your profession. But you are coming in to learn finance. How many of you want to end up being the accountant or finance manager in your organization after this? Anyone? I don't think you want to challenge that guy either. So we also think the same, because our intention is not necessarily for you to become an accountant or replace your accounting professional in the organization. What we believe is that you want to learn this subject to make your life better, right? To understand the jargon, to connect your job into the finance world and see how far you can engage your work better. For example, even if you are in HR, you have to deal with finances. You have to do a HR budget, you have to do a payroll, you have to do various forecasts, you have to do return on investment on your employees, you have to identify certain efficiency measures. But I'm not sure how many of HR guys are doing this, because most of the time, even when you do the annual budget, you get a template from finance, you just fill certain things and they do it as a desktop exercise. So there's very little involvement even in that exercise by the rest of the functions. So what we believe is that this particular knowledge that you are going to gain would help you to bridge that gap in your technical knowledge. And more importantly, this will equip you better to combat with your finance guys in boardrooms or meeting rooms. Because most of the time we see, when you discuss certain things, the strongest weapon the finance guys use to shut the rest of the functions, jargons. What's your ROI? What is your payback? And that may be the end of your conversation with him, right? And then you know the subject, it's easy for you to talk in the same language. And there was a guy in this class who was supposed to be a marketing director of a reputed company. The main reason he wanted to come to this class was to combat his finance guys. So the very first day he came to the class, he asked me, tell me a good finance book I need to buy, apart from what is recommended here. And the next week itself he has bought the book, and he said, you know why I bought this book? Now when I go to office and when I go to all meetings, I carry this book, right? And it's on my desk as well. So when everyone else knows, I know the subject, right? To that extent, he had that pressure and stress that he was unable to deal with these finance guys and this technical jargon. So these are some of the true stories. These are not false stories, these are true stories that I have experienced. So the idea is that you're not going to become accountants, but you want to understand the subject. That is the very reason why we do this subject in a very practical manner beyond the theory, because I don't think the certificate that you are gaining is going to help you to achieve anything in your hierarchy or the career in terms of moving up in the financial career, yeah, in terms of financial discipline. So this is basically for you to equip yourself in other areas. So we need to be as practical as possible. And I enjoy the conversations I have with most of these non-finance professionals in this class, because they look at things from a different perspective. And I've been telling Kapila, I have been lecturing in the past for last 20 plus years, and for Chartered SEMA I used to lecture for over 1,000 students in a class, but those were one way. But I learn a lot in this class, even though I sit with 5 people in the class, because they are coming from different backgrounds with different knowledge bases. And that is why it matters when you challenge things things get refined. Because I had to convince a marketing professional in this class, right? This guy had an argument. The expenditure on marketing and promotion, he said, should be an asset, not an expense. It's an investment, according to him. So it should be in the balance sheet. So I couldn't deny. I had to keep on convincing him, debating with him, and it took me 2 weeks to convince him that it is not an investment. But I enjoyed that conversation. I could have easily said, no, you are wrong, this is the accounting standard. I said, no, it's not the way. We need to know why it's so, and we need to also give fair hearing to that side as well. So in the interest of time, let me not take much of your time. I just want to highlight one more last thing. As Kapila highlighted, attendance is very important, not because it's mandatory or it's part of your requirement. That is because of the nature of the class that we conduct here. We are not just reading out the book. We are exam focused on one side. Secondly, we try to make it as practical as possible. And I'll give you one example. In terms of my subject, there's an Excel element, as I told you. There was a IT professional in the class who was the country IT head of a multinational organization. So as I felt, he felt little embarrassed to sit in the class when I talk about Excel, because I'm such a large profile, so why should I stay in the class listening to Excel? So he didn't attend the class, and the end result was he failed the exam. Because he may be good at strategy and all this high-end stuff, but if you don't know certain functionalities, some formulas, and the logic, you may hardly deal with those things in your current role as a strategic head of an organization. Maybe you get things done through your staff, right? If you want to do an Excel sheet, if you want to do an analysis, you get somebody in your department, say, do this analysis. But you may not really engage in this, if you don't know. So, but the point I was trying to make is that don't undermine the value of that. And we do respect each of your functions. I sometimes get CEOs, directors, owners of companies, right, who are much senior and experienced than me. I always respect that, but one thing I have to highlight is that I am, or one of the lectures are here to teach you. We are here to facilitate you and build you in an area that you are not comfortable with. Maybe we are filling a gap in you, right? So in that respect, we do this class. So that it's not a lecturer-student conversation, it's more of a mentor, facilitator, friend kind of an environment we would like to have. And we also would encourage everyone to actively engage, participate, discuss, have fun. Right? On a Saturday, I don't think you want to just block yourself. And I know most of the men would like to have this class because that's a break for them. Okay, wish you all the very best.
Thank you, Chamanda. So that very interesting and refined. So yes, that there are lots of stories that we have shared. I will take a minute to say that there was one of my close batchmates who is a mechanical engineer by profession, who followed this program many years ago, about 7 years ago. There's one comment he made. මචං මේ ප්‍රෝග්‍රෑම් එක කරන්න කලින් අපේ ෆයිනෑන්ෂියල් කන්ට්‍රෝලර් ගෑන්මාව සතු 5කටවත් ගණන් ගන්න. He was heading the manufacturing operation. That was his aim. මේ ගෑන්මාව සතු 5කටවත් ගණන් ගන්න. මේක කරලා ඉවරනාට පස්සේ කිසිම ප්‍රොපෝසල් එකක් මගට අදාළ කිසිම ඩොකියුමන්ට් එකක් දාන්න නැහැ මගෙත් එක චෙක් කරන්න. So he has earned that respect because he's learned it, and the moment that we finance people, whenever we work, we are unlike any other professional. We are very comfortable because many people can challenge finance people, right? No, if it is a marketing thing or operational thing, 100 people can come up with so many things because everybody will understand a little bit of it. But when it comes to the finances, a couple of technical terms coming in, so then nobody can go and challenge that. Okay, so therefore that is a value that you are going to earn. Like at least you should earn that. At the same time, if the others know that you know this, so then they will not try to play too much around with your department or the division or with costings or anything like that. So keep that in mind. And I'm sure with so much of experience that Mr. Chamin has, like initially he was the assistant vice president at HSBC, and then heading finance at Lanka Hospitals, and then with for a short while with Hades Ogilvy, and then head of finance with bankruptcy loan, and then now as a consultant, there's a wealth of knowledge that you can get through this time in the so it's open to you to get the best out of him. That again, not being a passive learners in the class, but getting actively engaged and extracting the maximum that they have to get. Okay. Then I would like to invite another unique individual to talk to you. That is none other than Mr. Priyantha Herath. Again, he also had his career spreading across a number of industries in the different business areas, and finally he was the head of finance and strategy with the merchant bank. And that is the time that he decided, okay, doing this is enough, so he wanted to start his own business. He's actually running an outsourcing business where he provides especially finance and knowledge KPO related outsourcing services to his clients in many number of countries. And Priyantha is going to take you through the subject of financial statement analysis, which is very useful subject to you in your course. So let me invite Mr. Priyantha to take.
Good morning. When I see this team, first thing that came to my mind is your commitment, dedication. So despite COVID challenges and the other challenges created by COVID, so you decided to invest in CME. Right? So we explained what is an investment, and so you need to get a reasonable return for your investment. Right? You need to make sure that you get a reasonable return on your investment. Otherwise, in finance or in accounting, we say you need to do an impairment test. I am using a little bit of technical jargons, right? So if you don't generate a reasonable return on your investment, you need to write off investment as an expense, right? So therefore, make use of this investment and generate a reasonable return on your investment. Don't write it off as an expense, right? So the investment become an expense if you don't generate a reasonable return on the investment, right? So therefore, make use of this investment. And compared to others, I know most of the corporate companies these days, the first thing that they do is cutting their training budgets to face COVID challenges. But you selected a different road and you wanted to invest in this course, training, right? And therefore, make use of this opportunity, and you can learn a lot and you can improve your knowledge. And second thing that I want to highlight is you may have studied accounting, finance for O-level, A-level, for the first degree, even for the MBA, and even for your professional qualifications, right? But unlearn them, right? So I say unlearn them, right? If you unlearn, so you can create a space in your mind to absorb new things, right? So you may have learned finance when you were reading for the MBA, right? So forget all and unlearn, start learning it again, right? We follow a different method, and this is a practical method, and we go through financial statements, annual reports, and try to understand finance. Then next thing is the interactions, as Kapil said and Charminder said. So in this class, your interactions is extremely important. Otherwise, we can't deliver, and also you can't extract the maximum from these lecturers. Therefore, interact as much as possible, especially if it is an online class. You need to interact in the class, right? Don't be a passive learner. Right, interact in the class. And also, Kapil said, all other professionals, they don't challenge finance team, right? Make use of this opportunity to challenge the lecturers, right? So don't accept what we say, right? You can argue and you can debate, and if you have different views, you can express, right? And we also learn a lot from other professionals. As Charminder said, the engineers, the way they look at finance, and even the business owners, how they look at finance is different compared to typical accountants, right? So therefore, challenge, interact in the class. You can raise any questions. I think the previous batch there are some students, so they will endorse, and those who interacted in the class got high distinctions, right? So I can remember some time back one girl from advertising field, and the first day or second day she came and told, so matna mukukku therenne, right? But when we got results, she got a high distinction. Right? She interacted in the class. Therefore, interact as much as possible, and then you can gain a lot. Right? Then we play different roles. Right? As an employee, we play a role. Sometimes the same person act as an investor. Right? If you have excess money, you invest that money in a fixed deposit, or these days you buy shares, right? And you invest in the stock market, and so you play the role of an employee, and you play the role of an the investor, or even sometimes as a shareholder. You buy some shares, and you become a shareholder. And some of you are bankers, therefore you play a different role, a lender's role, right? You review financial statement to evaluate the credit proposal, so you play a different role. And there are some regulators also, right? Therefore, the same financial statements are used by different individuals, or sometimes even the same individual, for different purposes. Their objectives are different, right? So therefore, the objective is not to prepare financial statement. You are not supposed to prepare financial statement. Accountants are there, so they prepare financial statements. And the one misconception that we have is, to understand financial statements, to read financial statement, you have to be an accountant. No. Why I say financial statements are prepared for the shareholders. Annual report is prepared for the shareholders, right? All the shareholders are not accountants. Therefore, financial statements are prepared for ordinary people like us, for other professionals, for general public. Therefore, you don't need to know accounting standard. Don't worry about IFRS. Don't worry about financial instruments accounting standard. Don't worry about impairment accounting standards, right? So, as an average reader, if you read the financial statement, I am 100% sure you can understand everything there in the financial statements or the annual report. Why I say this? This information is presented to average people, not for accountants, but prepared by accountants. So therefore, remove that attitude, right? You don't need to be an accountant to understand financial statement, right? So therefore, read with that attitude in mind, right? The next thing that I want to highlight is why you need to study finance. Charminder also explained, right? And if you go up in the ladder, as Charminder said, all managers are finance managers. So with your knowledge or without your knowledge, you make decisions. So we call them economic decisions, right? What else?
Whose car number is CAM 83484? Can you please take for a while? Or otherwise you can leave the car, because the construction is going on. They want it. Can I have the keys?
Yeah, you can. Key to it. And if you work as a director of a listed company, or if you work as a director of a finance company, or if you work as a director of a bank or a insurance company, so all these places public funds are used, right? So there is a serious responsibility for directors. All the companies, directors are responsible for the preparation of financial statement, not the CFO, not the accountants. So in the auditor's report, it is specifically mentioned that the directors are responsible for the preparation of financial statements. Right? So if you are a director, you can't say I am a HR expert, not finance expert. I am IT expert. Right? So to be a director, certain level of financial literacy is a must. Right? So otherwise, as central bank, when directors are appointed to banks, finance companies, so they check fit and proper, whether you are a fit person or fit to be a director. Right? Therefore, at least you should be able to read and understand financial statements if you want to be a director or if you want to work as a corporate management member. So therefore, this course is very useful. I am not going to discuss in detail the scope and everything. So we can discuss after 11:30. And if you have any issues, any questions, we can discuss. Otherwise, I can wind up the interactive part. Okay, then we'll meet again at 11:30. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Priyanka. Again, and every time, every moment, every minute in your life, you learn. Actually, I can grasp a couple of new ideas from the last just 5-6 minutes that I've been listening to Priyanka, even though we ourselves teach finance. So that's the thing. So the knowledge that you have will be helpful to you in numerous ways. I remember many years ago, there was another engineer. Actually, he got a PhD also in engineering. He worked for Suntel, right? He was holding a senior position at the time that he was doing the program. And then immediately after, it was the time that the Dialog took over the Suntel. And so, and it has actually come very handy to him that because at that time the valuation process, there was no one else matching his knowledge because he had the engineering background, and just after the program about the valuation, then he was actually, and everybody has been surprised the way that he could contribute to the valuation process. So therefore, the knowledge that you gain in somewhere in your life is going to be very handy, it's going to be useful, and you don't know the time that it's going to be useful to you, right? So again, get the best out of what you can get during the course. And let me ask you a question, a completely different question. How many of you all can sing? I know there are some can. And how many of you can draw nicely? Nice paintings? No. And how many of you can sing and draw nice paintings both? No. And in addition to that, tell very nice stories, very interesting stories? Okay. So now we have a very unique individual here. That is the person who can sing so well and draw, have very nice paintings and tell a lot of stories to you, and at the same time teach the most difficult subject in the course, that is financial management. There is none other than Sanjeeva Gurve. He actually works at the central bank, and he's been a senior assistant director until the last year, now he's a superintendent attached to the central bank. So he's your lecturer for financial management. So with you, Sanjeeva, I will speak. Thank you.
Good morning. Since Kapila and other lecturers explain about the program and the main points relevant for this program, so I'm not going to talk the same thing again. Right, especially as Kapila mentioned, I'm doing financial management, a very quantitative subject, right? So actually, these quantitative subjects are the easiest subjects. So right, so those who have not done finance earlier, right, might be it's a difficult subject before you start, right? But when you start to study, financial management is the easiest subject, so, right? Because that includes a lot of important financial mathematics concepts, which once you understand the concept properly, the application is simple, right? Especially as Kapila mentioned earlier, the most important thing for this subject is the practice. So unlike some other subjects, we can't just read. So in fact, as I mentioned already, most of the important points explained. We can't improve finance by reading answers. It's not possible, and it is necessary to practice. Normally, even if we understand the concept very correctly, let's have to continuously practice. So without practicing, because especially as far as exam is concerned, so you will see in this subject financial management, when you see the past paper, so you see it's quite challenging. So it has 9 questions, so you have to answer 8 out of 9 questions within 3 hours. At the beginning, you will see it's almost impossible. It's not easy. It's not possible, right? But when you practice, so you can do that. And especially for this subject, we are using financial calculation, which will make it so easy to do very complicated calculation. Some complicated calculation which require significant time. You can do in 1 or 2 seconds. That also help us to do this and to discuss into more detail. As Kapil mentioned, we started very basic, but we are going to cover this subject to an extent where you learn under professional level. Therefore, at the end of the program, we will learn a lot, because when you see the syllabus for this financial management, you will see that's fairly broad syllabus. So there you get the opportunity to learn many things, right? From financial mathematics, project appraisal, portfolio management, financial asset valuation. So we can discuss a lot of practical issues related to this bond pricing, equity valuation, a lot of things we can discuss. And the most important thing is so you need to interact, especially when it comes to this online classes. Without that, it's very difficult. So if you don't communicate, it will be very difficult, right? So it's necessary to discuss. And if you have any question at any point, you need to ask. So that's very important. So because it is necessary to understand from the beginning, because you will see in this subject, all the topics are very much interrelated. So without having the good understanding about initial topics, it's very difficult to discuss subsequent topics. And so these subjects are very much interrelated. Therefore, very good understanding about the initial concepts we discuss is important. Therefore, any point, if anything which is not clear, you can ask anytime, no problem. Right? It's very important to understand the basic concept. Then the balance part is simple. Right? Therefore, about the subject, I'm not going to discuss too much. So we'll discuss later. And especially so in this program, so we have only one thing, as I mentioned, the subject is valid pro, and within 20 sessions we have to cover everything. Therefore, in every session I'm going to cover significant part, and especially when you are coming for a lecture, right, for a particular session, I know you sacrifice many things, and you try to spend 3 hours. So my advice is, after you spend 3 hours for a particular session, at the end of the session, you should not regret for attending the class. That's why I try to cover significant part every day. Right? So therefore, so if I try to cover as much as possible, but if it's fast or if you don't understand anything, you need to ask. So if you ask, I explain a number of times, right? And one important thing I want to highlight again and again, the practice especially, I like to refer to one research study done by prominent researcher in the day. So because even theory subjects, if you just read, after 2 weeks, we tend to remember only 10%. So that's what he has concluded after big research, right? So after 2 weeks, after just 2 weeks, if we just read something, we tend to remember only 10%. Therefore, reading is not enough. So it's necessary to practice, right? So that's why. So if you ask a question, if you discuss, and if you practice, then this is subject, right? So we'll try to cover a lot of points in this subject. I hope so you get the maximum benefit, right? Okay, thank you so much. We'll wait a minute.